Hi, friends. As I write this, global headlines read like a powder keg. Tensions between Israel and Iran are accelerating, and we now see Trump, NATO, and Western allies aligning against a BRICS-aligned Iran backed by China and Russia. The pieces are on the board, and for the first time in a generation, World War III no longer feels theoretical. But unlike the world wars of the 20th century, today's battlefield is as much digital as physical, and the stakes include not just lives and territory, but currencies, credit systems, and the very architecture of our wealth. This issue, we examine two questions. One, how is the global monetary system shifting, and what replaces US dollar hegemony? Two, what does it mean to invest and preserve capital in a time of world war and global debt? Let's dig in. Investor journey, shifting global monetary systems. Since World War II, the US dollar has served as the world's reserve currency, but the financial landscape is shifting. BRICS nations are challenging USD supremacy with bilateral trade agreements, energy deals settled in yuan and rupees, and plans to introduce a gold-backed settlement token. Digital currencies are multiplying, with some countries exploring central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and others embracing stablecoins or even Bitcoin. At first glance, these look like scattered experiments. But step back and the direction becomes clear. We are entering a multi-currency world. The next system won't be dominated by a single currency. It will be negotiated through trust, technology, and trade alliances. As I reflect on this, it's clear that the US dollar isn't being replaced so much as decentered. Trust now flows through new channels, and with it, so does capital. So how do we navigate this transition? Hold gold. Its universal value becomes critical in a fractured monetary world. When currencies devalue, when digital systems go offline, when trust erodes between governments, gold remains a neutral, borderless store of wealth. Think of it not just as a hedge, but as a form of monetary continuity. Diversify across currencies. A multi-currency portfolio is no longer exotic. It's become essential. If one currency faces inflation or capital controls, you have options. But the currencies you choose is important. Swiss francs, Singapore dollars, and Bitcoin offer exposure to stable, low-debt economies and decentralized ecosystems. Invest in trust-based systems. The next reserve asset might not be a national currency at all. It might be a network. Decentralized systems like Bitcoin offer self-custody, transparent issuance, and resistance to political capture when purchased and stored with the appropriate intention, as we teach in our Wise Crypto Investor programs. Real borderless assets like land, water rights, and critical minerals retain value regardless of borders and often become more valuable in times of political upheaval. Cash flow businesses built on essential services, not trends, are emerging as the real safe havens. These are the companies and ventures that people rely on no matter the geopolitical climate. Think water filtration and sanitation companies operating in export markets, agricultural producers with direct-to-consumer distribution models, or small-scale energy providers offering off-grid solar and backup power solutions. Even independent healthcare providers, logistics firms, and digital security service platforms fall into this category. They don't rely on speculative tech valuations or endless growth narratives. Instead, they provide what people need and do so with pricing power, loyalty, and operational resilience. In a time of political instability and digital disruption, they become the backbone of local and global continuity. But maybe in a multipolar currency system, the most valuable asset isn't a coin. It's your ability to adapt, not with fear, but with foresight. It's why we're building portfolios that can thrive no matter which direction the storm comes from. World War III. War has always been disruptive, but World War III, if it comes, will be different. Unlike the past, we're starting from a place of record-breaking global debt, fragile credit cycles, and fully integrated global supply chains. Debt to GDP is already unsustainable in many nations, 123% in the USA and 235% in Japan. New war borrowing could collapse credit markets. Central banks are less equipped than in World War II to absorb war spending without triggering inflation or currency collapse. Globalized production means physical conflict anywhere can cause economic crisis everywhere. And that changes everything. This time, it's not just economics and geography reshaping the world. It's exponential technology and ideological volatility. We're entering a period where war will accelerate the adoption of tools and systems that once seemed a generation away. AI and automation. Nations will deploy AI not just for military strategy, but for industrial productivity and logistical resilience. Investing in AI infrastructure, chips, and operational platforms will be essential for both economic and defense growth. Robotics. From battlefield drones to hospital automation, robotics will dominate both military and civilian sectors. Investors should watch defense-adjacent robotics manufacturers and logistics automation tools. Space technology. Satellite networks, orbital communications, and early warning systems will underpin everything from internet access to missile defense. Civilian-facing companies in space infrastructure will play a dual-use role. Populist politics and geopolitical volatility. Political responses will be fast, inflationary, and emotionally driven. Populist regimes may pivot to wartime narratives that justify capital controls, expropriation, or new compliance systems. This means investing in jurisdictions with strong legal protections and reputations for neutrality. This collision of timing between the unrest of a potential world war and the natural reset of the 18.6-year economic credit cycle raises an unsettling but essential question. Will our most powerful technologies be used for destruction before they are harnessed for rebuilding? Historically, each cycle reset has brought with it the implementation of new technologies to solve real-world problems that rebuild infrastructure, reorganize supply chains, and launch new economic models. But this time, the regenerative cycle coincides with tools capable of reshaping humanity itself. And our fear is not unfounded. AI, robotics, and space-based technologies may necessarily first serve conquest rather than collaboration. Which brings me to a deeper investor question. What world will we create with the capital we deploy now? It occurs to me that our values and priorities will come into play more than ever. The technologies most likely to shape the next cycle will offer the greatest profits from both their creative and destructive potential. But we each must choose where we place our bets. Will we fund systems that dominate and surveil, or systems that empower and regenerate? This conflict may, in fact, be the final ideological battle between democracy and autocracy that's been building since the last World War. And the investments we make today may depend on what we build, support, and align with to ensure not just the returns we receive, but that our values in the wider world win the day. As I reflect on the things I'm seeing unfold, I must be honest with myself. Protecting my own wealth is part of the calculation. Surviving to participate in the rebuild after the destruction means positioning with intention to navigate what is coming. There are core protective sectors that are recognized for protecting and growing wealth during times of unrest. But there are adjustments to be made this time based on the economic landscape and the desire by those in power to rebuild the economic, monetary, and power structures in the world today. These are the considerations I am including in my own evaluations for the next 3 to 5 years. Core protective sectors. 1. Precious metals. Gold and silver rise on fear, protect against fiat collapse, and offer liquidity during capital controls. 2. Defense and cybersecurity. Think Lockheed Martin, Palantir. Defense now includes both boots and bytes. 3. Energy. Oil may surge on conflict, renewables will be militarized. 4. Defensive equities, healthcare, utilities, and consumer staples. Maintain demand regardless of market conditions. Modern adjustments for this World War environment. Avoid government debt, especially from high-debt nations likely to monetize deficits. Own offshore assets, real estate and bank accounts in stable, neutral countries. Use multi-currency portfolios. Hold wealth across US, Swiss, Singaporean, and crypto forms. Go tangible. Land, commodities, food, and resource-linked assets will hold real value. For me, wealth in this new world isn't just about returns, it's about resilience. And resilience means mobility, sovereignty, and clarity about what cannot be faked or confiscated. Investor Skills Corner. This issue's glossary highlights some of the concepts and terms referenced in this newsletter. 1. BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, a trade alliance pushing for financial multipolarity. 2. CBDC, central bank digital currency, a government-issued digital token. 3. Monetization, when central banks finance government debt by printing money, risking inflation. 4. Fiat collapse, when a paper currency rapidly loses value, usually due to hyperinflation or trust erosion. 5. Geographic diversification, holding assets in different countries to reduce exposure to local risk. 6. Cycle reset, a phase often marked every 18.6 years, where financial, real estate, or economic systems break down and rebuild, often through the implementation of new technologies. 7. Dual-use technologies, tools developed for civilian purposes that can also be deployed in military or surveillance contexts, e.g. AI, satellites, robotics. 8. Resilience investing, a strategy that prioritizes mobility, sovereignty, and essential utility in assets, rather than high-growth speculation. 9. Ideological allocation, choosing investments that align not only with financial goals, but with personal values about governance, freedom, and power distribution. Final thoughts. The world doesn't fall apart all at once. It unravels thread by thread until the fabric no longer holds. But even in times of unraveling, there are patterns and there are choices. This isn't just a moment of market repositioning. It's a turning point in how we define wealth, value, and our role in shaping the future. And while we can't predict the exact outcome, we can prepare for its shape. Some assets will protect, others will build, some may even destroy. But what matters most now is clarity of intent. So we prepare with discernment and vision, selecting the kind of investments that not only survive change, but help shape what comes next. That means getting curious about what the future monetary system might be, building portfolios that are designed for disruption, choosing investments that don't just grow, but endure. Because the real question isn't whether war is coming, it's who do you become in response if it does. Check out the written version to learn what is happening in the community. Until next time.